All right, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining this webinar session. So let me just see if I can share my screen here. It's been a while since I've gone on a webinar, so forgive me if I'm having trouble with my screen share, but my name's Jimmy Wu. It's at 10 a.m., so I
Hey,
just want to
Jimmy,
let you, oh, yeah.
just letting you know you were sharing your team screen.
And people were seeing my kettle
Hmm.
for the office.
Yeah, even though I'm sure everyone's super interested in what kettle we're going to get for the new office.
Okay, there we go. Let's see.
Perfect.
All right, awesome. So welcome everyone. It's right now 10 a.m. We'll give it just one more minute for any straddlers to come. But while we're waiting, I'd love to know a little bit, what's your role at the agency? So I'm gonna launch a quick poll on what your role is at the agency. If you could just let us know, that'd be really appreciated. Looks like we definitely have a lot of finance and operations roles people joining today. Uh, oh, project management team is also catching up. It's like a race. It's kind of cool to see those numbers going up and down. All right. Okay. Awesome. So it looks like a majority of us, 57% finance and operation, 25% of us is on the projects team. And then of course we got some accounts people, owners, a few others as well. So welcome again. So I'm gonna close the poll now, but thank you for joining. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Jimmy Wu. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing at Function Point. And then I have my partner in crime, Sophia Wilson, who's the Manager of Customer Experience. And hopefully you guys probably, if you've attended any previous webinars, you probably heard Sophia a lot. But today you get to hear from myself around the reporting. I am personally a big fan of reports because I used to be a project manager, and when you manage projects for companies and marketing people at HP, IBM, they kind of just want reports on a daily basis. So I love reporting, but I want to hear a little bit, maybe what would everyone like to get out of this webinar? So whether it is you want to better understand how to analyze the data from the reports inside Function Point, maybe see what reports that exist that you might not know about, or maybe understand where that data is coming from so you can see how reliable those reports are. Or if it's just better understanding your profitability, your team's productivity. It is a multi-select, so feel free to select more than one. Yeah. So I see definitely a lot of people want to know kind of what reports exist in Function Point. Awesome, I'll give it maybe 5 more seconds. That's where I should play the Jeopardy music. Cool. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and close that. Just share the results for everyone. So it looks like most of us want to definitely know what reports exist in Function Point, but profitability and productivity, over nearly half of us are also wanting to understand that. But it seems like the majority of us are pretty comfortable in analyzing of the data. So you've definitely come to the right place. So today, we won't be able to go through all 28 cookie cutter reports inside Function Point, but we'll definitely show you a few reports that I personally really like that gets asked a lot about on what you can do. So let's get started. So first off, so our agenda, we'll talk a little bit about our new BI reporting module versus the standard reports, how BI report is organized, what's profitable, how do we measure profitability, and how do we measure productivity using the reports. So first off, BI reports versus standard reports. So if you ever hovered over our reporting module, you might notice there's two different drop down. One showing the standard report that might say deprecated on your system. That is our old FP reporting module. Then there's of course the BI reports, which is our new reporting module. Now, why we developed the new BI report is there are two key differences. Is that the standard, everything inside the standard report cannot be customized. Okay, whereas the new BI reporting module will allow you to customize. That includes things like adding fields and new data points. The second biggest reason that you should be using the new BI reporting tool is because it gives you a service level report. So any type of internal service or expenses, instead of looking at everything on a job level, you can now look at it on a service level. So you know it's designed more profitable than say copywriting that I do. So there are 28 built-in reports. Now I am curious, this will be the last poll that I'm gonna share, is how often do you actually use function points reports? Whether it's the standard reports or the BI reports, curious to hear, do you use it once a month, on a regular basis, almost daily, weekly, or if you've never really used it? Okay, I do see some daily there. Okay. So it seems like everyone do it on a monthly basis. So give it maybe 5 more seconds here. Okay, cool. So it looks like most people do it on a monthly basis, but not many of you do it on a weekly or daily basis. So we'll definitely show you some reports that you can use, not just on a monthly, but maybe on a weekly or daily basis for your day-to-day operations. So awesome. So now, before we jump into the system, I want to explain really how the organization of the reports are done, okay, and the levels. So first off, your reports, the highest level is on a job or a staff level. So by looking at job or staff level, you can then see profitability of the job, the budget spend, the resource allocation being used by that job. For staff, you can then see their efficiency, their utilization, their resources. Now, you can also look at everything on a service. So for the job and the staff reports, you can break that down further to see efficiency and profitability of staff by the service, not just the individual, or the budget spend of those services, the efficiency of the services within the job or staff level. Then last but not least, there are what we call the transactional reports, okay? So this is where, let's say if you're in finance and you wanna see all the invoices that have been created, okay, that would be a transactional report for your invoices. Or if you're a project manager wanting to, oh, I apologize, my mouse keeps going away. So if you're looking at all the timesheets that have been tracked in the past week, that would be a transactional report, and that's where you go to the timesheets. So I hope this diagram will help you, but we'll talk about, let's dive in so you can kind of take a look at how the organizations are done. So first but not least, so inside function point, I would highly recommend, first off, if you have not set up a dashboard for reporting, please definitely explore the customization of the dashboard. In this screen, I have kind of the top summary reports that gives you a glance. So that includes your profit, kind of where your job deadlines are, and the budget of the jobs, your task summary. So for you project teams, this is where you'll be able to see, what are a summary of all your tasks or the team's tasks and whether they're within or over the budgeted hours. And then for staff productivity, so there's a lot of you wanting to measure staff efficiency and utilization. So this utilization is going to be your first line of defense. And you can create this and select this under the customized dashboard. But overall, what you can do here is you can see the staff over a certain period of time, what their target billable hour is versus the actual billable hours. And when you hover over the line, you can see it progress on a day-to-day basis. And this can be filtered, so you can adjust this simply with, which staff, which team, or even the entire agency. So if you want to look at your design team and how they're doing, just go ahead and do that, and voila, the target and billable will now adjust. And then of course there's the timesheet summary with what's billable versus non-billable. I forgot, so one thing, if at any given point during the webinar, if you do have a question on your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a questions module, and feel free to type them in at any time, and then Sophia will definitely be able to respond as needed, or maybe if we have time, I can go through that on screen with you.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm actually just going to jump in here. I haven't actually had a question come through yet. And just from my own experience where GoToMeeting did accidentally not bring them through, if anyone can just say a quick hello to me in the questions so I can make sure that they're coming through so that I can make sure that I am able to answer all your questions. Oh, great. Thanks, Paul and Brandy. I really appreciate that. Oh, and Jackie. Hi. Okay, thank you, everyone. Can't wait to get your questions.
Awesome. Okay. So let's jump into the reports. So today we'll focus really on the new BI reporting tool. So very simple, one's on the top right. If you do not see the reports, please ask your system administrator to give you the permissions to access the reports. So within the reports, it does come with, I believe there's now 30 standard built-in reports now. So it can be a little bit daunting when you first come in going, oh my gosh, what should I be looking at? Where do I go? So very quickly, on the left-hand side, there is a folder. So we talked about the hierarchy. So you want to think about, am I looking for a job level report, a staff level report, or a service level report, or a transactional? So think back to how it's organized. So most of the time, if you're thinking, okay, how profitable is were all my jobs in the last month? That would be a job level report. Or if you want to know about how efficient was my staff, did they complete all the workload? That's more of a staff level report. So within it, over on the left hand side, you can see every report will tell you, okay, if we're looking at an efficiency report, it's a staff or a job level, or staff or a service level. When you see if it's a staff or job level, then that means everything is summarized to staff and job, versus in this one, when an efficiency report that says staff and service, it's going to break it down, showing each staff what services they worked on, and how many hours. And that's the same with the jobs as well. So we'll go through the job level report first. So let's go through the first one. You can see the most commonly asked question is, what is my budget spend? I want to see my estimate versus actual versus invoice for all the jobs I've done. So very quickly on the standard reports, you can just select that report, and then it'll give you the next step is to define your data. So defining your data means any filters that you want. So if you want to look at a specific client, specific job type or status, maybe I just want to look at everything that is currently open. Hit continue, put it in a table, and voila, the report has been generated. So this, in short, I call this an EAI report. So this is going to show you all the clients and the jobs you have. In this view, there's a lot of different things you can do to customize it right on the screen. It's sort of like your built-in Excel spreadsheet. So you can filter, you can sort by any of these columns. So there's a double arrow. So once you click multiple times, it'll sort by that. There is also the ability to further filter. Okay. So let's say within here, I only want to look at one specific client because there's, I see there's 47 jobs. Maybe I want to only look at Furry Creek Golf Academy. I can go in and filter on the left, and maybe Great Atlantic Insurance. So these are my two top clients perhaps. So on the left-hand side, you can adjust these filters as you see fit. Now, if you're looking at specifically, if depending on the field it is, so if it's a numbers field like estimated hours or actual hours, you can have different type of filters like greater than a specific number, does not equal, or greater, etc. So there are a lot of different filter options on here, and you can do multi-filters. Once you create your filter and get the report you want, then you can see in this report on the right-hand side, there's a lot of different columns. Sometimes you might have fields that you don't really care about. So that's where this show hide column appears for you. So if you click on that, you'll be able to go in and kind of select, okay, maybe I don't really care about, what project it is, or which office is working on this, or things like the date description, etc. So you can go in and pick and choose which columns you want to show or not show. So if I take a look at this report, I can see, okay, when's the due date? But on the right-hand side, and this is where I would highly recommend like a touchpad, or if you have a mouse that can have a scroll, left-right scroll, it'll make your life a lot easier. So you can quickly see here the estimated hours, actual hours, the variance, and you can then also see the estimate based on your labor, internal service, expenses, what's the total estimate, and then the actual internal service versus expense, the total actual. And this cookie cutter report actually calculates the difference between estimate and actuals for you and what's been invoiced. Now, if there are, so this EAI report is great for your projects team to look at budget spend. This is exportable to Excel. So if you want to share this data with your client, you can export this to an Excel, or if you want to manipulate it further. Last but not least, some of you might be asking, okay, well, I see all the budget, the estimate, the actuals on here, but what if I want to see the cost as well? So if you ever find a report, we do have a profit analysis report, but let's say if you want to add more data sets in this report, one of the great things is you can add a new column. So a key thing is you want to holistically see where everything is. So when you add a new column, it is organized based on different modules. Now we do have a great support document that will go through what fields and data sets you can add to each report, which we'll share in an email after the webinar. But in this case, if I want to look at the cost, I am personally a fan of just typing in the column name. So I can look at the actual total cost. And once I add that in, then that data sets now appear on the right-hand side. So then now I can also drag and drop the columns to maybe compare what my total actual versus total cost is. Or maybe I want to look at what my total invoiced versus the total cost is to get my profitability. But this EAI report, if you're not, I would highly recommend using it on a weekly basis, as this is going to give you a quick summary, but also you can quickly drill down on all the different type of on the jobs that you have currently. Okay. Any questions thus far, Sophia?
Yeah, there's lots of great questions. I think 4 literally just came in as you were asking me, but there were a couple really good ones that I do want to make sure that is just mentioned on here. A great one from Jackie, and she's just confirming regarding permissions. So just for everyone's peace of mind, if you do have permissions set up so that certain individuals don't view costs within the system, that does pull through into the BI reporting, so that you don't need to worry about them having access to data that you have specifically requested that they don't have access to. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. I know costing can be a bit of a sensitive topic sometimes, so it's just good to let you all know that. But yeah, other than that, I think I've been able to tackle most questions. I got 4 more, so I will head back in. But great job so far, Jimmy.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so one quick clarification on the terminologies in the beat reporting and across our system. So estimate is always pulling from the estimates that you've created in the system. Actual is referring to the bill rate that you have. So this is coming pulling from your staff or rate cards that you've set up inside the system that you're charging out to the client. Whereas cost, when you see cost, the general rule of thumb is that that is the pay rate that you have. So with the cost rate that you've paid the vendors before the markup, or if you have inputted or set up staff cost rate inside the system, that is the hourly cost that you've set on the back end that you've set up. And an invoice is calculated, of course, from the invoices you create. So, hope that clarifies it. So this is one report that's used a lot. The other job level report that a lot of people use is the profit analysis report. So the profit analysis report, I'll just go through this real quick and then we'll dive into the staff level reports. But profit analysis report is very similar to the EAI report, except it's instead of focusing on actuals, it's now focusing on the cost rate. So you can see what your estimated cost is for your internal service versus expense. And then you can also see the actual cost you've incurred, okay, versus that you can bill to the client versus not billing to the client. And then you can see also what you've actually billed from again, internal service, external expense, and internal expense inside the system. But scrolling to the very right, this is going to show you what you've invoiced to date. So you can see the estimated, the actuals, the invoice to date, as well as the cost. And the system calculates all the percentages on a line by line item. What I really like about this report though, is the estimated profit at the very end versus the actual profit loss. Okay, so I want you to focus on the two columns with the orange symbol. So the estimated profit, when you create the estimate, you can project what your potential profit margin is. Whereas the profit loss is going to be what you've actually made based on what you've incurred for the invoices and cost. So these are the two reports. There's a lot of data in there, and we can probably spend an hour analyzing all of this. But definitely, if from a job level report wise, if you don't use it on a regular basis or have never used the reports in the past, the EAI and the profit analysis reports are the two that I would say definitely go in after this and explore and see the data sets that you're going to be able to pull out from there. Okay. So let's talk about staff productivity. So we had a majority of you wanted to come and take a look at how to measure staff productivity. And that's always been a big question since COVID, as people are working from home, making sure, hey, are they doing their job? You know? So there are built-in staff productivity report already. However, there's the two most common one is the efficiency report by staff, but then there's also another one called a utilization report. Okay. So both reports, they're a little bit similar, but there's also key differences to them. So we'll go through the efficiency report first. So let's say I want to look at the efficiency of my staff for the month of March. Continue, and we'll go ahead and build the report. So once I built this efficiency report, you can see every single line item. This is a staff level report. So you're going to see every single line is summarized on each individual staff. They'll quickly see how many jobs they've worked on during that time frame, what their total hours are that they've tracked inside the system. Out of those time tracked, what was non-billable versus billable, so that you can see if they met their target billable hours. This report, the cool thing about this report that I really like is you can also see the value of those billable hours that they inputted versus the cost of the staff. So the dollar variance essentially is showing, okay, if I was able to bill all the hours that they've tracked, what is the potential profit on each staff level? So I can see here, everyone's doing pretty well for this month, but I do have Sean Harris here who is at a negative. He did track 88 hours, but then 70%, 70 hours are actually non-billable. So he only worked 20% on billable time. So maybe I need to have a talk with him, or maybe he's actually an administrative staff, so that's why. As a general rule of thumb, if the staff is a billable staff, the best practice, the target billable hours is for the industry and the creative industry is 75%. So billable staff, you want to aim for 75%. Anything, if you're at 84, 85, or 90%, hands down to you for doing that. But that's the efficiency. This shows you how much of their time is spent on billable hours and the value of those time. Let's take a look at the utilization report now. So the next report is the staff utilization report. So same thing, we'll look at the month of March. Actually, I do have a quick filter that says current month. Okay. So month to date, you're gonna see, again, this is on a staff level. So every single line item summarizes to the staff. I can see what their target percentage is for utilization and what they've actually achieved. So the available hours is based on your work calendar. So you can see how many hours of time they should have tracked. And then the target hours is based on the available hours multiplied by your target percentage. So you can now see target hours versus how many hours they've worked. Out of those hours worked, what was billable? Okay. So thus far, most of it is very similar to the efficiency report you saw earlier. However, the utilization report is going to break it down further for you. The utilization report will take the target billable hours and drill down to how many of those hours were actually billable to external clients versus billable maybe internally, and how much was non-billable. Furthermore, you can then see the billable percentage and the non-billable percentage. So the biggest difference here is that this one breaks down, what was billable external to clients versus non-billable to clients. So that this will show you a true utilization of your staff as well. So these two reports, they both are powerful to evaluate your staff's productivity. But definitely you want to use this as a way to definitely take a look at both reports as they can have their own use case scenarios. I like to say the efficiency report is great for, maybe if you've had a profitable year, or you're looking at, giving merit increases to your staff. That's a great report to look at. Okay, so that's the staff level reports, that the two most commonly used inside our system. Sophia, were there any questions that came up or that you would like to add as well?
Yeah, lots of great questions. Actually, one just came in from Jess regarding the staff utilization, and it's just asking if we can exclude certain non-billable services when calculating the billable percent. For example, they don't want to include vacation, sick, stat holidays, and only based on the hours actually worked rather than the total number of hours entered into the system. So what we usually recommend as a best practice in cases like this, Jess, is that you would sort of take into account those items when creating your target billable percentage. So although there's someone that the majority of their work, you would expect them to hit 100% billable, maybe put it towards 80 or 75 to account for that time. So that's usually what I would recommend as a best practice around that. But Jimmy, I don't know if there'd be anything that you'd want to add, because unfortunately we can't actually exclude certain services or not when it comes to this report. It is all time.
Correct, it is all time. And I would second what Sophia said on that, and that's why I mentioned 75% kind of being the industry target billable hours. So that 25% of the time is considered for things like you said, vacation or you know, lunch hours, meeting time, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then on that note as well, someone else just asked another good one on just where do we set that billable percentage target for people? And I'm sorry, Jimmy, I was so quickly answering questions. I don't think I saw if you showed it or not. So that is underneath your admin panel directly against specific individuals. And it looks like Jimmy is showing us. So it's a really great thing to have in there so that you can start utilizing reports like this. So yeah.
So as you're setting up the staff, there is a billable hour target percentage right here that you can set.
Perfect. So I think those are the best ones. And then I just had one more question that just came through around how can the columns be condensed to see more at once, and can the first column be fixed to show as we scroll? So I don't know if you were going to dive into some of the like pivoting abilities or not. I feel like that might be some of the best ways of showing this. But again, I don't want to throw you off today, Jimmy. I can still answer those questions, but I just want to check to see if those were going to be features you touched on.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I can touch on them very quickly. So in terms of adjusting the columns, you definitely can. So you can adjust the width of the columns if you wish. So you can condense it a little bit. Once again, you can always hide the columns on the left here, or move and drag and drop. You can't pin a specific column though. So like if you want to pin this specific staff, unfortunately that you won't be able to do that. However, in our next deep dive of the webinar, if we will go through some more advanced features such as pivot grid, building bar graphs and line graphs, which is going to be able to help you with that. However, we'll keep it to the basics for today for everyone's purpose. But in the next webinar, we'll definitely dive into these more advanced capabilities. So, or reach out to us afterwards, and then we can go through them one-on-one. Okay. So so we talked about two reports, the EAI, the estimate actual invoice report for job level, as well as the profit analysis on a job level. We've also talked about staff efficiency and staff utilization reports. So now I want to show you a couple reports that are very powerful, but not often used by people, not used enough by agencies. So the first one is called billable hours recovered. I personally love this report. I think it's probably the #1 favorite report inside the system. So I'm going to look at it by a client level first. And what this report does is it answers the question of, hey, are there time that I didn't bill the clients? Okay, how many hours did I miss billing to the clients? So I'm going to go ahead and pull, say, everything for the last quarter. Let's go with current month again. So now I can quickly see that for every single client, so I can see American Express, the jobs, as well as who worked on this. And in this case, I can see for each individual, the timesheets wise, how many hours and the rate and the billable value to the client and the cost. And here's becomes the key part is whether these timesheets were actually invoiced to the client. So I can see in here that I haven't invoiced anything to the client here. But that's probably because this is still month of March. So maybe let's go back to January 1st to say February 28th. Okay. So now I can see out of all my clients, all the jobs that we've done and the people who worked on it, as well as their time worked, I can see the billable value versus what the invoice value are, and the profit loss for each of these specific timesheets or services that I've worked on. So there's quite a bit of data in here, but this is actually a great report for you, especially if you're doing time and materials type of job, to know did I miss billing anything? So you can quickly go down and say, okay, I know I always do time and material type of jobs with Great Atlantic Insurance. So let's go in, take a look, and I can see there's quite a bit of things, and I'm going to sort this by the job. So I can see, okay, for this corporate website job that we've done, we haven't invoiced any of these time that Miro, Paul, and Trupti worked on. So therefore, so that's why we call it a billable hours recovered, because this is a great way to ensure you did not miss any billing. All right. Now, this is also a great way. So this is on a client level. Now, you can also look at this on a staff level as well and break it down to a service level. So you can also look at it by the staff. So in this case, another way to evaluate your staff is that with this billable hours recovered, you might, in the efficiency and utilization report you saw earlier, you might be able to see, okay, all my staff are meeting their billable hour target, but how many of those billable hours are actually invoiced? So this is the report that you'll be able to see for each individual staff. Out of the hours they've worked and the jobs they've worked on, what was the billable value versus whether it was invoiced or not. So you can see for Alberto, even though he had a high billable value rate, not everything gets invoiced. So if you're looking for another way to kind of evaluate your staff's productivity and efficiency, this may be a report not just to see any misbilling, but also evaluate how much of their work is actually valuable or good quality work we can bill back to the client. All right, so that's the billable hours recovered report that I personally really like. And this last report I want to show, we just have about 10 minutes left here. So the last report I want to show are new reports that we recently released just a month ago, actually, inside BI reporting. So if you do use Function Point's tasking module to allocate workload and manage your staff's work, this is going to allow you to, we have 3 different reports that will help you. It's called the Staff Resource and Actual Report, the Staff Resource Allocation Report, and there's also one more, Resource Forecast and Actuals by Company and Job. So these are the 3 new reports for you. So in these 3 new reports, this is going to help you understand, okay, historically, did I overwork my staff? And projecting to the future, how much workload do I currently have? And are there white space? So let's go ahead and look at staff resource allocation report, I believe. So if you're looking for historical, let's say for the month of February, then I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up. And I'll be able to see, okay, so for all my staff, oh, sorry, this is not the report I want. I want the other one. Staff resource and actuals report last month. So in this staff resource and actuals report, you'll be able to see for each individual staff what the forecasted work hours are versus the capacity. So forecasted work hours is the number of hours that you've tasked out to the individual. So if you're creating and assigning tasks, you'll see this is what it's pulling the data from. Whereas the capacity is the available hours that they're able to work. So whether it's 160 hours per month or 40 hours per week during that time frame. And actuals is the amount of time that they've tracked during that time frame. So you can quickly see the forecast, projected workload, how much workload they actually can take versus the actual time they've used to complete those work. And then you can see the variance between them. So in this report, because I filtered to a historical time frame, I can now see who is overworked, who I actually overworked, and who I didn't. So in this case, Beth, she's complaining a lot, but she's actually not overworked. But whereas somebody like Paulo, he definitely worked quite a bit of overtime. So maybe we need to decrease his workload in the future. If you want to project though, this is like a historical, if you filter the date range of this report to a future date. So let's say I want to look at the rest of March, how much workload I have. And you can filter this up to a month, a year, 3 months, it's up to you. But I can see for the rest of March, what their capacity is and how much workload I've allocated to them. Note that the actuals is 0 for a lot of them because this is in the future. So they wouldn't have, well, hopefully they wouldn't have tracked timesheets into a future date. But if you see them tracking time to a future date, this is an indication of that. But the key here is these two values, and the variance between forecast and capacity will show you how much white space you actually have for each individual. So this is the part where you can see a summary of your staff's capacity. So that's reporting, a very high level and basic overview of the reporting of what's inside function point. Any questions? I guess, Sophia, were there any questions that popped up? We have about 4 minutes left here, so.
Oh my gosh, lots of great questions, Jimmy. I am moving a mile a minute on some of these. So I guess just one that has been asked a couple times, and I think just a little bit of housekeeping that we forgot to mention at the start, guys, is we are recording this webinar. It's being recorded, so it will be available for everyone to review it again later. Again, lots of great content coming out of it and lots of great questions. So don't hesitate. Also, if you have any very specific questions to maybe your system, I've had quite a few come up. Don't hesitate to reach out to our success team at success@functionpoint.com so we can help you find the best possible report for what is needed. I am writing down some names here as we go so that I can make sure some follow-up is sent up specifically to you. But if following this webinar, you feel like you just need a little bit of help, don't hesitate to reach out to us. But other than that, there's been some good questions just around like billable versus non-billable, but I think I've been able to tackle those and actually probably need to have those conversations on the side because that's more in relation to the actual setup of your system. So yeah, I think I'm good. Sorry for rambling on there, Jimmy, but yeah, again, lots of great stuff happening back here.
Yeah, not a problem. Well, if there are more questions, we do have a few minutes left here, 3 minutes to be exact. And I realized there is one thing I forgot to show, which is a service level report. So I showed everyone a job level report, a staff level report, but a service level report is also equally important. So a lot of people, when they look at profit analysis or estimate versus actual versus invoice on a job level, they become, okay, well, which of my service is actually better, doing better than others? Or do I have am I actually making money on this new digital service that I'm providing? So there are quite a few service level reports. So I personally like this service report, which is on a job level. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull every data, not filter it. So in this case, you're gonna see that every line item shows which job it is. But in this case, I have about 10 line or 11 line items here for this corporate website job, 30179. And that's because there are 11 different service or expense items on here, which includes research, documentation, sketching, design, etc. And you can see what the estimated hours for each of those service is on that job versus the cost, billable. So you can see the estimated hours, cost, billable versus the actual hours, cost, billable, and what you've invoiced. And then of course, similar to the EAI and the profit analysis report, the variance between estimate, actual, and invoice. So this is a great report which is going to show you in summary, which is going to show you the breakdown of each job, but also the service that they have. And a sneak peek, I hope all of you, I'll see you all again in the next webinar for the deep dive, because I will be going through how you can summarize this report using pivot grids or bar graphs, which is going to show you things like, this is just me trying to show you a little bit of what you can expect next time. Hours and actual hours. So next time, in the next webinar, you'll be able to see how on the job reports, instead of looking at everything on a job level, how we can use pivot grids to define your data so that you can see in summary the services you provide, so what your budget versus actuals are. So looking at your client profitability, your service profitability, the profitability by your job type, etc. And same thing on your staff level. So yeah, that's the end of the webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it. It was a lot of content. I hope I didn't go too fast. Sometimes I do that, but I guess any last minute word of advice from you, Sophia?
No, I think I've been able to answer everything. The last thing that I would want to point out is we had a lot of really great suggestions for future updates as well today. So our dev team loves to hear directly from our customers, and also if you are able to submit it into our idea portal. So Jim, if you don't mind just showing where that is so people can, through our AHA Ideas portal, you are able to submit, and people are actually able to come in and vote. So if you have any really great ideas and things you'd like to see on future updates, please come in, put them on in here, so that other customers also have the option of checking them out and voting, so that we can best plan any future updates. So that would be sort of my last thing to sort of say to close this out. This has been fun. It's been a while since I've been answering questions in the back end, and I forgot how fast and furious it can be. So thanks for letting me switch it up today, Jimmy.
Yeah, no problem. We'll keep the webinar open for the next 5 minutes in case any of you have any last minute questions, or if you want, then I can go through them. But thank you all for joining. This was really fun for myself as well, and I hope to see you all again in the next deep dive advanced BI reporting webinar, which is a couple weeks from now.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, no problem.